back to the ETF Inspector. It's Monday, June 16th, and this will be the video covering YieldMax Funds ULTY and LFGY. Those are the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund and the Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income Fund. Update on the channel, we're up to 811 subscribers, so we're getting close to that 1,000 subscriber mark goal, I'll say. And just a reminder, if you're interested on X, I created an account over here at ETF_Inspector1. I just let you know when videos are coming out, as well as reposting YieldMax pertinent information like their declarations. All right. So each day, each morning, the holdings download comes out. So we'd have to scroll down to each individual page to get those. And then each afternoon, somewhere around 5:30 to 6 o'clock, the intraday trades download comes out. We download that. The nice thing about that is you only have to download it once, and it covers everything within the YieldMax universe here. So as far as these funds are concerned, we have ULTY, which this might be the smallest trading day I've seen so far. So thank you for the not so hard day today. And then, couldn't believe it, I ended up downloading it like 3 times just to see if they updated it later, but nothing on LFGY, so they just left everything alone. So they gave me a fairly easy Monday. I appreciate that. We'll take a look. The market, if you were watching, so I was pretty busy at work today, unable to really keep track of the why the market was up so much. I assume things are looking like they could lead to peace over in the Middle East or short-term peace. I don't know if there will ever actually be peace, but that's not what this channel is about. So ULTY up to almost 2.5% to $6.25. LFGY was up as well. And as we scroll through, there was hardly any red. If you saw when you clicked on the thumbnail for the video, almost an entire sea of green. And even what was red was so small losses that it doesn't compare. So, big winner. Let's see, I got it written down. Circle Internet Group up 13.1%. That's the biggest increase over on ULTY, and always a good day when say something like this. The biggest loser was just over 0.5% with LabU, the triple leveraged S&P biotech fund. So they didn't even have anything that was 1%. Realistically, they had these 3 right here: eToro, LabU, and MicroStrategy. All the rest was green, so can't beat a day like that. Just in case, I always forget when I switch over, so let's just talk about it now. LFGY up 1.87% to 39.29. And again, practically a sea of red. Opera was their big loser with 0.16%, and they were actually tied because MicroStrategy was also 0.16% loss. And their big gain wasn't as big as ULTY, but it was Coinbase, so that one's actually listed up here with the ULTY funds. So they were up 7.77%. So great day value-wise for both of the funds. All right, so let's take a look at how the trades went. And as you saw, it wasn't a lot of trades. So if you're used to watching these videos, you know if the stocks do really well, really fast, it ends up causing losing trades, right? Because we've sold calls with the goal of those calls to end worthless, and we just get to keep the premium we collected. But in this case, when the price of the stock runs up beyond the strike price, you got to buy it back for a pretty penny, and that's where we get these losses on our trading days. So 4 stocks within the fund went ahead and got swapped out. First one being Coinbase. They closed this week's $250 calls. They're staying within the week. They sold 272.50s for the same thing. So as you can see, had to pay $13+ per share and only received $269 a share, selling the next one up. But they are, they just went ahead and took the loss there, and they're still trying to scrape and make some sort of money this week on these. I should point out, I actually forgot about it until today. Juneteenth, June 19th, is considered a federal holiday, so there will not be trading on, I believe that's Thursday. So we only get 4 trading days this week. So as far as, I don't know, trading wise, we still get the same distance to Friday, even though there's not a ability to trade on Thursday. So it kind of works in our favor to sell the put on a Monday for a Friday, even if it's a 4 trading day instead of 5. But anyway, lost $341,000 rolling coin. Rolled it up, but not out. Circle Internet Group. This is another one that just, I think it IPO'd around $60 a few days ago, like end of last week, and they were up to like $150 today. But so they bought to close their $120 calls for this week, and they sold $165 calls for this week. As you can see, they had to pay $37 a share, 100 shares per contract, 1,210 contracts. So that hurt a lot. $4.5 million. Only receiving $1.3 million to sell the further out call. Still within the same week, like you said. So an overall loss of $3.5 million. Palantir's another one. They had to close their 138s, and they sold 148s. But with Palantir, as you can see, 620 compared to 627, they pushed them out a week, so they rolled up and out. Overall, took a loss of $283,000 on that trade. And finally, Reddit had to close their 119s, paying $8.20 a share for them, and they rolled to next week as well, 131s, collecting 407. So a $562,000 loss. So I mean, you're gonna get these bad trading days, but you'll see. I almost don't want to show you the total yet. I'm gonna keep it a secret for a minute. Nah, I'll just put it down here because I don't want to show you the overall increase in values of the fund, because that'll be fun. So overall, they lost a little over $4.7 million trading, having to roll out these trades that went against them today. All right, so let's switch over and take a look at how these stocks within the fund performed. We start with Applied Digital Corp. Closed at $11.55. That was a 3.31% increase. Fortunately, their calls are still 8.23% out of the money, and they increased in value by $331,000. So these increases that we'll talk about are different from the losses we just talked about, because these are realized losses. The transaction was made, you bought it for one, sold it for another, lost that money. The stock went up. They just hold the stock, so the value went up, but it's a little different, right? Because you haven't cashed out. So this is just increases and decreases in value. Today, it'll be practically all increases. Okay, so and then while we're explaining things, right, let's talk about our color coding. I'm actually thinking about switching this to maybe yellow being like the 0 to 10 and green being greater than 10% out of the money, because nothing 5% out of the money ever really feels safe. I mean, I just came up with anything, but since we're selling calls, we don't want them in the money. We want them, because if they expire out of the money, that makes them worthless. So in the money would be bad. That's why I've got that colored red. So to go a little further into explanation, let's say, so we've sold a $12.50 strike call. It's at $11.55. So in the money would mean if the price of the stock actually got to $12.50, then it'd be at the money at $12.50. As soon as it went to $12.51, that would be in the money. So we don't want that to happen. I've got yellow coding as it's in our favor, right? It's still out of the money, but it's close, less than 5%. And green is it's out of the money, in our favor, and it's more than 5% out of the money. So we've got some breathing room. But as you can see, right, we had a 9% gainer, a 7% gainer, a 13. So 5's not always safe. But so maybe I'll change it. Maybe I won't. Maybe if anybody's got any opinions on that, let me know. So AppLovin went up 1.7% to 370.68. They are still 1.17% out of the money. We need them to stay below 375 by close on Friday. It was a $235,000 increase. AST Space Mobile up 9.23% to 41.91. So again, fortunately, these were greater than 10% out of the money before today. So now they're still 2.6% out of the money, and it was a $2.1 million increase in value. Coinbase up 7.77%. I feel like you're in Vegas there. Went to 261.57. That was an over $1 million increase in value. So if you'll notice, so I use orange, right, for the ones we talked about. It's kind of like an under construction color. So we don't need to talk about where the options are in or out of the money because we just said they swapped them out. So with tomorrow's holdings download, I will get updated positions over here. But I put it over here because if you'll notice, they have 580 contracts. And on Coin, they traded 290. So they rolled half of these and they left the other half still where they are. So they've got half of these still 4.4% in the money. So they are hoping for the stock to give some back this week. But next, we've got Circle Internet Group. This was the big winner, up over 13% to 151.06. That was an over $2 million increase in value. They swapped out those, so we've got new ones still for this week, I think we said. eToro Group lost 0.1% or a tenth of a percent, went to 61.50, so they lost 6 cents. They're still almost 5.7% out of the money. It was a $7,000 decrease in value. First Solar up a fraction, 0.03 to 175.25, so 5 cents they went up. They're almost 7% out of the money, and it was a $2,000 increase in value. Hims and Hers up 7.75% to 59.78. Still just barely out of the money with their first strike price of 60, 0.37%, and then they're 2% out of the money on the larger portion of contracts at 61. They went up nearly $1.8 million in value. Robinhood Markets up 5.72% to 76.75. That was a $1.4 million increase in value. That took their large portion of calls, $76 calls, just in the money, about 1%. And their 77s are just out of the money, 0.3%. But they didn't swap them out, so they think even if they don't come down and they just stay here, if you let the time decay, they'll definitely be a lot cheaper to close at the end of the week. That's the way that works. IonQ up 1.56% to 38.43. They have calls 5.3 and 9.2% out of the money. The majority are the closer, and they went up $283,000 in value. LabU, that's the triple leveraged Direxion daily S&P biotech bull, lost 0.58% to 58.42. Their calls are 7.84% out of the money, and it was a $71,000 decrease. Mara up 1.86% to 15.32. They are 4.44% out of the money and a $270,000 increase. MicroStrategy lost 0.16% to 382.25. These are 0.59% out of the money. So we started the week already in the money. That's a bad spot to be in. But as you can see, right, we're only $2.25 in the money, and that's your 382 compared to the 380, and they were nearly $11 cost to close them out at the start of the day. So even if everything stayed the same and these went all the way to expiration, that almost 11 would drop down to 2.25. So it's smart to let them ride for now, or it's working out. Maybe not smart. We'll only be able to tell after we look back. $29,000 decrease. NVIDIA up 1.92%. So that took these from just a little out of the money to a little bit in the money. 144.69 was the closing price, about a 0.5% in the money, $448,000 increase in value. Oklo up 2.81% to 65.45, still 3.9% out of the money, $681,000 increase. Palantir up 2.92% to 141.41, a $669,000 increase. They have two sets of, they do a collar with everything in ULTY, so a call and a put combined, combined with owning the shares. So the calls that were closer to, in the money by 2.4% got rolled, and the 142s are still 0.42% out of the money. Reddit, another one with a big day, almost 6%, 6.8% increase, 126.20, a $1.6 million increase in value. Both of their calls went into the money, but they only rolled the deeper one, so the 5.7%. So they still have 125s that are just under 1% into the money. Rigetti up 6.67% to 12.16. Their 1250s are still 2.8% out of the money, and it was almost $1 million increase in value. RH down or up just under 0.1%, $10,000. 189.29 was the closing price, 8.3% out of the money on those. SMCI up 5.13%, so they were not that close, and now they're 1.5% in the money at 43.69. $736,000 increase. Tempest AI up 1% to 72, still 5.5% out of the money, $146,000 increase. TNA, another triple leveraged fund, small cap bulls, up 3.34% to 31.55, still 3% out of the money, $524,000 increase. I should have left that dark. Now you can see. TQQQ up 4.08% to 75.80, so we're just barely out of the money now, 0.25% basically. We need this stock to not go up another 20 cents the rest of the week. A $929,000 increase. Tesla up 1.17% to 329.13. They have calls that are 2.5% and 6.3% out of the money. $300,000 increase. Upstart up 5.84% to 55.06. That took their 55s, 0.1% in the money, and their 5750s are still 4.4% out of the money. It was a $1.2 million increase in value. Vertiv Holdings up nearly 5% to 116.45, taking them in the money by 1.25%. It was a $500,000 increase. And Vistra Corp, again, I'll keep on pointing it out until it ends up not being true. These two both go up or down together every day. Up about 2% to 177.20. Still just barely out of the money. Let's see, we've got 30 cents to go on a $177 stock. $303,000 increase. So all in all, the value of the fund increased by $18,684,000 in today's market. So that's going to take, because this number is the holdings as of the start of the day, we're going to be a $500 million fund when the download comes out tomorrow. So that's kind of cool. So that NAV won't update until I get all the new holdings and shares and everything like that. But we've just been seeing enormous increases in the outstanding shares, and the values of the stocks within it are going up. So I guess you got to say it's a good day, but we would like upward movement without blowing through our calls. But I guess what's the saying? You can't have your cake and eat it too. All right. Next, we will switch over and look at LFGY. This part's going to be easier. No trades. So nothing to report on those. And I'll drop back again and just hit on my distribution guesstimate just in case you didn't watch the Sunday video. So Bitdeer Technology up 6.94% to 1356. They're still 3.24% out of the money, and it was a $310,000 increase in value. Clean Spark up 3.44% to 962. Still just about 4% out of the money on those, $185,000 increase. Again, Coinbase up 7.77% to 261.57. These guys have 255s. Let's see real quick. Where was Coin? So Coin in ULTY was more aggressive at 250, whereas LFGY had them at 255. Either way, it didn't matter. Blew through both of them. So they're in the money, but they didn't close them out. Almost $1.2 million increase in value. That is one of their, if not their biggest, one of their biggest holdings within this fund. Didn't mean to scroll that far. Core Scientific up 1.6% to 1208. They've got calls that are about 3.5% and 7.6% out of the money. It was a $113,000 increase in value. Galaxy Digital up 2.81% to 1937. Still 8.4% and 29% out of the money. I still don't understand why they are not closing out. These started the day 2 cents to close. I don't understand why you would why keep it open. But they're almost 30% out of the money. GameStop, 5.33% increase to 23.32. Still 9.3% out of the money. $218,000 increase in value. Robinhood up 5.72% to 76.75. Still 1.6% out of the money. $435,000 increase in value. Hut 8 Corp increased by 5.61% to 1846. They've got calls. Pretty much, this is the one we need to worry about. There's 3,600 contracts compared to 100. So 2.93% out of the money. We need it to stay under 19. So we've got 54 cents to go. But the $20 ones are 8.3% out of the money. That's a $369,000 increase. IBIT, they don't do options on it, so it's just the shares themselves. They went up 3.45% to 61.80. There was a $428,000 increase in value. Mara Holdings up 1.86% to 15.32. Similar to the last one, they've got two call strike prices, but one's 6,400 contracts, the other's 190. So we need Mara to stay under 16. That's the 4.4%, and the other's almost 11% out of the money. That was a $184,000 increase. MBTX, they don't own any shares, so we really don't care about the percentage increase because it doesn't change our value at all because we don't have shares to change value. So we just are watching the options, seeing if they win or lose them. The calls that they have sold are at 260, so they're 1% out of the money. And then they've also got this debit put spread. So I've talked about this before, but in case you haven't seen it. So in the short term, they're selling calls at 260. So they're betting that by the end of the week, it won't go over 260. But long term, this is a December 31st spread here. They have bought 230s and sold 150s. So the more it goes below 230, the more valuable these end up being over time. So they are betting longer term. It's still not really long term, six months, but they're betting that it's going to go down. So do with that what you will if you like to trade these. Some of this going through every trade of these professionals makes me start I don't know, wanting to do trades with them. But Mercado Libre, Melli, up about 3.5% to 24.54.76. So it's a $2,000+ stock. And just like that, these were it went from the 2300s to the mid 2400s in a day and went 0.6% in the money. It was a $195,000 increase. MicroStrategy, we talked on the last one, down 0.16% to 382.25. pretty evenly split on their contracts here at 390 and 392.50, 2 and 2.6% out of the money, $23,000 decrease in value. NU Holdings up 4.12% to 1239. They've got 180 contracts at 13 and 3,931 contracts at 12. But the reason these are upside down is because those $12 calls are actually further out. They don't expire until the 27th. So those are 3.15% in the money. The others expiring this week are 4.92% out of the money. The increase brought the value up by 201,000. NVIDIA up 1.92% to 144.69. They're still 0.91% out of the money, so we really can't afford for them to go up much more. $68,000 increase. Opera down 0.16% to 1840. They've got calls for this week and then July, 8.7% out of the money. Some of these things are just confusing, right? Why? You have 2,900 contracts for this week and then 25 contracts for like a month later. But again, these 8.7%, they're 2 cents to close. I don't understand the point in leaving them open. But $8,000 decrease in value. PayPal Holdings up 2% to 72.26, still 1% out of the money, $73,000 increase. Riot Platforms up 4.63% to 1017. They're 3.24 and 8.16% out of the money, but again, 6,000 contracts compared to 180. So we need this to stay under 1050 to be a winner. I think I said it, but $281,000 increase. Tesla up 1.17% to 329.13. $69,000 increase, 1% out of the money on the calls. And finally, Block up 5.28% to 64.82. Still 1.82% out of the money. $161,000 increase, totaling up to a $4.5 million increase in value of the fund. So with that, what do we have? Three things that are in the money. So not terrible for such a big up day. These guys don't get quite as aggressive on their strike prices as ULTY does. Since I have them in, I'll just point out again the difference, small difference. ULTY, both of them own the shares, which is different than a lot of the YieldMax funds. The individual ones, they don't own the shares of the underlying. They create synthetic positions with options. So these guys have actual positions, and then they sell the maximum amount of contracts that they can, making as much as they can. So ULTY does a collar strategy where you own the shares, you sell calls out of the money, and you buy puts out of the money. Those puts that you're buying are protecting the value of your shares, right? So if the stock drops, then if the stock goes up, the value of your shares go up. If the stock kind of stays still, you get to keep all the premium from selling the calls. And if the stock drops, even though the value of your shares drops, the value of your puts go up. So that's the way of protecting that. The difference is LFGY doesn't protect. They don't protect their shares from price drop. They sell calls. Sometimes that's it. They just sell a call. Other times, like Bitdeer here, they sell a call and they buy a call. So then it would be a credit call spread. And so they are trying to make the profit off of selling the closer call. But with buying the next one, they're limiting the amount they could lose, in this case, to $2 per share. So you give up a little bit. Obviously, you're giving up your premium because you have to buy something. But then it's an insurance policy to where if things go against you, if it explodes, you've put a limit on how much you can lose on having to buy it back. So they do that a lot of times, but not every time. See, as you can see here, Robinhood, they just sell the calls. If Robinhood went up 100% tomorrow, they'd have to pay the difference. So you got a couple like that. Recently, since we've been bouncing so much, they've got a lot more, call it insurance, purchased calls than they normally do. Tesla is the only other one where they don't have, well, Tesla and Galaxy. You can see Galaxy's got 2 calls, but they're both sold calls. That's why we've got them colored in. So there's no limit to how much they could lose on Galaxy, on Robinhood, on MicroStrategy. See, those are both sold, nothing protecting the top side, on Opera and on Tesla. But that's actually less than normal. All right. So we're roughly, 133 million, plus we increased in value by like 4.5 million, plus we'll find out if any more people bought into the share. So we're getting close to 140 million value, roughly 3.5 million shares. We had a nice day for our price of the fund. Oh, I forgot. I said I would just hit again. So they didn't make income last week. LFGY didn't. So based on the IV, the estimate will come out to be 43.87 cents, and they've kind of been paying us 45, 46, 47 cents lately. So my guess is 44 cents. But just remember, they lost money last week. So I would say we think this is what they're going to pay us. It's probable, but don't be surprised if it's a lot less since they lost a decent amount of money. And ULTY, same thing. They didn't lose money, but they literally made 0.4 of a penny per share. So, but they've been paying out 9.5, like clockwork, 9 to 9.5. Retire on dividends. I think he gave them. Did he give them an 8.5, 9? I can't remember. So I'm a little high on this one, but I came in low last week and they still paid 9.5 for no reason. So I gave them 9.5, but don't be surprised if it's between 8.5 and 9.5. All right, that's all I got. So the only thing left is the dad joke of the day. Before I do, I just want to, as always, thank you. Thank you if you stuck around. Thanks for watching. Please give it a like if you liked it. Please leave a comment. I get back to every comment. If you've got questions, I enjoy answering them. I'm not always, other people can answer questions in the comments too, right? I'm just providing data. I don't claim to be, to know everything, to understand everything, or to be the smartest person in the room. I'm just providing the data. So, but if you haven't subscribed already, please consider it. Help me get to 1,000. With that said, dad joke of the day. Why did the cowboy adopt a wiener dog? Because he wanted to get along little doggy. Okay. Good luck trading tomorrow. I'll catch you in the Tuesday video.